we seem to forget how each of us are dying, especially the people closest to us, closest in our lives, the people with whom you have the tightest emotional bonds, connections. We refuse to entertain a single thought that has anything to do with reminding us of their death. Meanwhile, we know that on a superficial level, that it is definite, it is inevitable, that we will die. That's it. But we don't like to entertain a single thought. We don't like to even allow that thought to morph into being, to come into shape, to visualize. So we choose to fight. We fight with all kinds of lovely images. Images that are weaved by all kinds of hopes, braided by all kinds of goals and things and activities and anything that is simply geared towards extending this flimsy state of affairs, this weak and unreliable thing called life in this body. There's so many conditions that are required to be in perfect state, the most conducive causal relations to be in just the right frequency, measure, magnitude, state, whatever you want to call it. But basically, the formula has to be perfect every moment, from moment to moment, that is. In order for you to call it life. Now, what kind of life? That's a different story, which means that the demands are going to get more specific, more intense. But we never think about this. We never pause to consider these things. We just expect life to be normal, quote unquote. Or secretly wish for things to be ideal, meaning they have to be perfect. We don't like to call it that loudly. We feel that, we want that deep inside. And every time you look at yourself in the mirror, there goes your ideal of perfection being shattered in front of your eyes. When you wake up in the morning without makeup and you look and you see, oh my, that's an ugly face. Or that's an old face. Oh, that's a tired, exhausted face. Or how come my body isn't in this state? How come I don't have those muscles here? How come I have more fat here? My flabby skin? All these things. But having the desire to maintain that state, to maintain that level of normalcy or ideal state of life, demands so much. And we like to just look at that period of time where things were a little bit quiet. Things were not so much in an upheaval. And we call that, oh, that's how I'd like my life to be. That's normal for me. We usually have the period of, let's say, childhood after a certain age, all the way up to maybe 25 or 35. It varies, of course. Some people say, I only had about 5 years where things were going well. For others, it might be less. Others, it might be more time period. But that becomes like, the perfect time period. So let me go back to that. Or let me perfect even that. The ideal weight usually is something more substantial, more tangible, that people look at. My ideal weight, or something similar to that. But all these are just simply delusions. Our attempts, feeble attempts at that, to try and extend that I am here and things are working well and I'm going to keep on going in my relationship with you, my loved one, my loved ones, my family, my father, mother, whoever it is going to be long, 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 long. In fact, let's not even put a period at the end of that. Let's make it indefinite. Yes. Let's make it more like the horizon. When you look out into the ocean or sea and you don't see the end of it. All of a sudden that becomes comforting. But life is totally real. And what you were believing in was actually delusion or delusional. Has nothing to do with real. And that's when life comes and greets you through a phone call that you get from your mother, your friends, your loved ones, that, hey, my body is failing. Your mind goes, but wait, you can't go. What is this? No, we got to fix this. We have to fix this. We will fix this. Okay? We will fix this. Just like you would tell yourself, I'm going to fix this face. This ugly face, this old face, this tired face, this exhausted, whatever. Or I'm going to go get surgery done. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get it fixed up. I'm going to put enough makeup to hide it. Hide it. Hide what? Hide the fact that we are all dying. So, many of us have this battle, this silent, ongoing battle. With what? With whom? With death. Death. We have been waging a war on death. And it might have started when we were children. We might have seen something happen in a movie, in a story, or in actual life when we saw somebody die or heard about it. But definitely was felt. Something was felt. Something was, quote unquote, here one moment and gone the next. Something was taken from you. and it will never come back again the way you saw it last. So that comforting delusion of reality was now torn to bits. How do you put it back together? You can't. So what can you do? You can wage war. You can start a war. With what? With death. So we have come up with different cultures have different images, symbols, metaphors for it, names for it. But they're all child's play. They all are really. You know what they resemble? It's like, or the interaction, or that scene of the person fighting with death. It's like going outside and jumping on the road, on a solid rock, on the ground, and saying, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you for being so solid. Why do you have to be so solid, Earth? As you can see, it's quite idiotic. But that's what we do. Like fighting with gravity, that's another one. Getting angry at gravity. When you get that call from your mother or someone, they're saying my body's failing or something, I'm finding, let's say, I'm having this problem, that problem with my body. And immediately you jump to the nurse mode, the I'm going to fix you mode. Oh, we're going to stop you from living, in a sense. Because that's what it means. Trying to eliminate death is like trying to eliminate life. You cannot have one without the other. So how can I get angry at gravity? It is gravity. It is going to do what it's going to do. That's the law. So I can, however, look at my relationship to it, to the ground, to the solid earth, to gravity, to the fluid or liquidy character of the ocean, of water. There's nothing wrong with the water. It's my attitude towards it. It's my respect towards it. So there's no need for a battle or a fight or a war to go on between myself and the thing that I dread the most, called death. But this is where it needs us to be responsible and courageous enough to look at the bigger picture instead of slamming our noses into this drawing, this painting, and expecting only to see that portion, completely oblivious to the other bigger picture that we're not unable to see. So long as we're squeezing our noses into the picture. So if you take a few steps back, you'll see a much bigger and a different picture, clearer image, clearer painting. And the farther back you get, the more of a bigger, wider vista will become visible for you, and you'll have a better understanding. There's a term in Buddhism called yata bhutang pajanati. And that is a quality that denotes wisdom. A wise person is a person who knows. Pajanati is a Pali word for knows. The person knows, understands. What? Yata bhutang. The way things are, the way things are unfolding, the way things become. You start seeing it, and there is now an appreciation for death. Because you just joined the scene. This is just, your nose is still in the image still. But there's a bigger show going on. Life, death, life, death, life, death. And you just happen to be in the life portion now. So, if you want to suffer, go ahead, keep squeezing your nose into the painting. And refuse to see what's really happening. But one thing's for sure, whatever is happening is going to continue happening. And you can't do anything about it because there's no need to be doing anything about it. It is it. It is what it is. So long as you have a body and you spend enough time on this planet, in this body, enough rotations around, enough revolutions around the sun, guess what? You're going to stand in front of the mirror one day and that beautiful, exquisite nose that you thought you had, or eyes or skin or whatever, it's going to give you a different impression. It's going to be old, saggy, ugly. Ugly, these are just adjectives that have attached to them emotions. That's why we want to shun them. That's why I'm using the actual words that we feel. We feel ugly. We feel miserable. So life doesn't try to do what we normal people continue to be doing these days, which is trying to sugarcoat things. Life is. This is why in the old days people would be called wise, because they would be smarter than the younger people, younger generations, because they would have already experienced all those phases of life. So when you think about it, dukkha or suffering has everything to do with you saying no to what's happening to you in the now, in the present. How you're relating to the present moment, to what's happening to you, and how much of a refusal you're kicking your heels into the ground and saying, no, I don't want you, move away, go away, in fact, disappear. Well, that is you saying no to what is happening to you. And depending on how intensely attached you are to that position, that will be the magnitude of your suffering. The less resistant you are to what's happening to you, the less dukkha, the less suffering you're going to be experiencing. That is why we need to have the Dhamma in our hearts constantly. And the more Dhamma you have with you, from moment to moment, from moment to moment, from moment to moment, despite the outside circumstances, despite what's happening to you, the more Dhamma is with you, the more it becomes impossible for dukkha to be experienced in your heart. The less susceptible you become to it, despite whatever is happening around you. Because you have an anchor, you have strong, strong refuge. And that's why we call it refuge. We take refuge in the Buddha, we take refuge in the Dhamma, we take refuge in the Sangha. That's why we take refuge. It's not just a saying, it's not just like a secret mantra or a code, or you're a member of a secret organization or a group. None of that nonsense. It's not rites and rituals either. It is confirming to yourself as to, reminding yourself as to what it is that you're taking refuge in. What is your faith based on? Is it based on truth? Or is it based on lies? And that's why death is one of the favorite meditation objects for serious meditators in this tradition. Because there's no confusion about death. It is there. That's it. End of the show. It's done. No debates there. Even if you were a debater, philosopher, debating whether there's anything, whether this happens, that happens, that'll shut you up. The certainty of death. So a lot can be learned from the fact that your loved ones are withering, slowly eroding. Everything else is. The chair you sit on is. The clothes you wear are. So, this path of the Dhamma, of Buddhism, the one that we have from the earliest teachings of Lord Buddha, the Pali Canon, whatever is based on the Pali Suttas, is a no-nonsense teaching about life, teaching about death, teaching about your life, and to pull you out of ignorance, which is the true poison. And once that poison is out, poison of ignorance, then you start seeing things the way they are. Yata bhutan pajanati. Then you're not going to be phased. You're continuing on your life. Everything's fine. Even if your body is breaking down, you're fine. You know, it's part of the... You'll take your medicine, whatever that needs to be taken to do your part. If you have a headache, if your limbs are falling off, something, medically you get all the attention that is necessary. But other than that, and throughout that time, you're observing your mind. Always. Just like you are observing your mind when you get that call that someone close to you has died. Always. So it's much better if you start preparing now. That's a wise thing to do. Instead of doing what you used to do earlier, which is pushing that expiration date, the shelf life. Pushing it. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. And you know it's nonsense. So, that'll do for now.